Truth Unveiled here, and today I have some very critical information to share with you. I'm going to be talking about the Day of Rage that is supposed to be taking place tomorrow, and later on in this video we're going to be talking about another Day of Rage that will also be taking place that's even at the door. But I'm here at IBT and it says, Anonymous declares Day of Solidarity with Black Lives Matter to protest police brutality. The demonstrations are set to take place across the U.S., which is tomorrow on July 15th. The article goes on to read that hacktivists aligned with the Anonymous Collective have declared a quote, Day of Solidarity, also known as a Day of Rage, with the Black Lives Matter movement in protest of police brutality, according to a video statement posted on YouTube, and we're going to go over that later on. The video, which contains graphic footage showing the deaths of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, and I've even done a video showing the truth about that at the hands of U.S. police, lists the date of the action as July 15th and states that cyber attacks and nonviolent demonstrations are planned. Now, whether or not they go through with this, we know darn well that this will not be the first one. It's going to uptick and increase as we've been seeing these past couple of years. Not only that, but there's even a bigger Day of Rage that's coming. But let's keep going. Anonymous has declared a day of action in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and the victims of police brutality, as well as alongside the families of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, the statement reads. We are calling on a collective day of rage, as we see right here, a day of action centered around civil disobedience and the right to protest. To police departments across the United States, we are not your enemy. However, it is in your hands if you want us to stay that way or not. We will not be silenced and we will not be intimidated, according to their statement. And it goes on to say that the latest campaign by Anonymous, which regularly launches cyber attacks and distributed denial of services, or DDoS, assaults as a means of protest, was announced by one prominent Twitter account promoting the hashtag, a hashtag Day of Solidarity and hashtag Black Lives Matter. The statement also links to a nationwide call to action featuring a number of locations across the United States where demonstrations will reportedly be held, and we're going to go over that soon. These include San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Orlando, Los Angeles, and Miami. We are calling upon the citizens of the United States to rise up and stand in solidarity with the people of Dallas, Baton Rouge, Falcon Heights, as well as Baltimore and Ferguson, the group's statement continues. The entire worldwide collective of Anonymous is outraged at these vicious murders. The time has come to draw a line in the sand and say enough is enough. We are infuriated as we watch day after day another human murdered because an irresponsible, corrupt system allows free rein to cops that continuously abuse their power. But what if I told you that this is all part of the government's plan for problem reaction solution, and that this is the government's plan of how they want to incite martial law in America, literally? And what if I told you that this is all controlled opposition in a big mental psyop, not just with these so-called shootings, but as well as what we're seeing with the Black Lives Matter protests and just any protest in general? Because last I checked, it's all has to do with George Soros and all those elite who are funding these so-called protesters, because last I checked, even some of the protesters at Ferguson weren't even from Ferguson. So the question is, where were they from? I hope you're seeing the problem reaction solution, because they, as in the elite and the Zionists, they caused the problem by starting all of these things and trying to trigger these race wars and these race riots, and then their solution is going to be to bring in the military, as we are starting to see slowly but surely. Because I'm here at Zero Hedge and it says, be aware but not there, National Day of Rage scheduled for July 15, 2016, which is tomorrow. And it says the hacktivist group Anonymous is now calling for nationwide Day of Rage protests on Friday, July 15th. The video below promotes the protests, and you can watch the video below. I'll make sure to leave the link so you can see it on your own time. Now, these are the various places, times, and locations that these alleged protests are said to take place. And as you can see, they're going to be taking place in 37 different locations, as well as 37 different cities nationwide. At least this is what they're telling us, because we see that they're planning to take place in Phoenix, Tucson, Little Little Rock, San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, Denver, Washington, D.C., and as you can see, the list just goes on and on, even in places like Orlando, Miami, Chicago, and even Baltimore, Boston, Detroit, Lansing, and even places like New York and Manhattan, Nashville, and Memphis, and the list just goes on. It's to take place in 37 different cities. I wonder why that's the case, because I hope you're seeing how they're trying to uptick this more and more. They're trying to push our buttons any single way they can because they want this race war and this race riot to start any single way they can, and they're going to keep using controlled opposition in order for that to happen by funding these protests and by hiring George Soros and all those other elite to fund so-called protesters to start chaos in America and then to make order out of chaos, which is the plan and goal of the New World Order. And now it's getting to the point where other countries around the world are also taking note and seeing what's going on in America with all the protests, and they are warning their citizens to stay away from America, literally. Because I'm here at the Huffington Post, and this headline reads that 3 countries issue travel warnings about visiting the United States. The nations are warning their citizens to stay on guard. Because remember, the goal is problem, reaction, solution. Now, it's interesting because I'm here at this article and it even says that how the United States always issues travel warnings urging Americans to either avoid or exercise caution when visiting other countries, but now it looks as though other nations are urging their citizens to stay away from America, because it even says how the protests have led to numerous arrests, scuffles, and injuries and confrontations between police and demonstrators, which is exactly what the elite want. America was also tense after a lone black gunman on Thursday shot dead 5 police officers during a protest in Dallas. And if you really think that it was just a lone gunman, I suggest you seriously think again, because it was another CIA mental psyop. As always, it's always the case. And by the way, when you look at Anonymous and who Anonymous really is, then you start to understand the bigger agenda, and that's all I will say about that. But it goes on to say that the U.S. Embassy of Bahrain, which is a tiny Middle Eastern island nation, on Saturday urged citizens via Twitter to, quote, be cautious of protests or crowded areas occurring around the United States. Bahamas, a Caribbean nation where most people identify as being of, quote, African heritage, on Friday warned its people to be careful when visiting United States cities rocked by, quote, shootings of young black males by police officers. And we see that happening in America every single day. It just goes undocumented and unreported, especially in urbanized neighborhoods. But let's keep going, because it even talks about, in particular, young males are asked to exercise extreme caution in affected cities in their interactions with the police. Do not be confrontational and cooperated, the Bahamas Foreign Ministry said in a travel advisory. But they're not the only ones, because the UAE also urged their students and other citizens in the United States to also be careful and use similar language the U.S. State Department employs when warning Americans about countries that have fallen victim to attacks by extremists. Please be aware of the immediate surroundings and avoid crowded places when possible, the UAE Embassy said in a statement that urged people to stay away from any United States demonstrations such as the ones that will be seen tomorrow. Exercise particular caution during large festivals or events. Be alert and stay safe. And speaking of events, that's all we've been seeing and hearing about these past couple of weeks, because not only is the supposed Day of Rage is supposed to take place tomorrow, but there's also supposed to be Reset 2016, which is supposed to take place at the National Mall on July 16th, 2016, which is also 777, by the way. Reset on 777 with millions of people to gather and to unite and merge together. Very interesting. Not only that, but we also have the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention that are supposed to be taking place the following week right after, and there are supposed to be many funded protests for that as well. What are they getting ready for? Oh, but that's not all, because Mr. Obama has also even made statements about this yesterday evening, and he even says, according to the New York Times, that Obama urges civil rights activists and police to bridge the divide. But when you see what he actually is talking about, then you start to see the bigger agenda, because it even says that President Obama said on Wednesday that the profound tensions between the police and so-called African American communities were likely to worsen for quite some time after the series of wrenching shooting deaths this month, urging law enforcement officials and civil rights rights activists at a lengthy and at times tense White House gathering to keep pressing to bridge their differences. And this discussion and session lasted for more than 4 hours. At least that's what they're telling us. But it even goes on to say, and this is the part that's very interesting, is when the president says that sadly, because this is a huge country that is very diverse and we have a lot of police departments, I think it is fair to say that we will see more tension between police and communities this month, next year, for quite some time, he said. But why would Mr. Obama even need to say that if, according to him, they got it all under control, and if, according to them, they're trying to make everything better and they're trying to provide the solution? So why would things even get worse? Why would there even be more tension this month, and next year, and for quite some time? Why would Mr. Obama even have to say that? Does he know something that you don't know? I wonder why that's the case, because Mr. Obama is even telling you what time it is and telling you what's to come, because he already told you at the previous White House Correspondents' Dinner that it would be perhaps the last White House Correspondents' Dinner, and both your Queen and your Pope have already told you that this past Christmas would be your final Christmas, which was a full moon Christmas, by the way. But were you paying attention? I hope so, because I'm here at the U.S. Army Special Operations Command, and I've gone over this document many times before, but it even says request to conduct realistic military training, RMT, Jade Helm 15, because meanwhile, while all of these alphabet soups have been distracting your mind with all of the protests going on, and while they're trying to get you all riled up and revved up about the whole race baiting and the race wars, and while they're trying to do all of that, meanwhile, your military have been vehemently preparing for martial law, literally, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, if you're not aware, Jade Helm is a challenging 8-week joint military and interagency unconventional warfare exercise that was conducted throughout Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada, Utah, and Colorado. At least this is what they're telling us. It was a U.S. Special Operations Command sponsored exercise to improve the Special Operations Forces UW capability as part of the national security strategy, and it ran from July 15th through September 15th. We're seeing that again. But what if I told you that it just continued with the UX drills that are going on this year? What if I told you that they're continuing all these drills even as we speak? And what if I told you that they're planning and plotting and conspiring to bring in the United Nations to lock down America and declare martial law, which is why you've been seeing all of these United Nations vehicles, and they even put it in the movie Independence Day Resurgence. Do you think they just put that there because they had nothing better to do, or are they subliminally telling you what's about to take place and what's about to happen literally? Now, these are the said participants who were participating in these drills, and as you can see, it's all the military, because you see it's the U.S. Army Special Forces Command, or the Green Berets, the U.S. Navy SEALs, the U.S. Air Force Special Operations Command, the USMC Marine Special Operations Command, the USMC Marine Expeditionary Units, and the 82nd Airborne Division, along with interagency partners. And this is where they're telling us that all of the exercise locations would take place in Texas, including Bastrop, which is the place where they're doing all of the UX drills even as we speak. But what they're also not telling you is that in these drills, what do these drills consist and conduct of? Well, they're conducting to lock away people when it comes to martial law. When martial law is declared, they're preparing to knock down your door literally, and to put all detainees and dissidents into FEMA camps, literally forced relocation. Your lovely presidents have already signed off on the executive orders that even give right and pave way for the government to do these things, and to literally displace you and your home and your family, and to put you into FEMA camps. If you do not believe me, please look up the executive orders that your presidents have signed, including Executive Order 13603, where Mr. Obama himself has even mandated slavery all over again, literally. Because if you're wondering why you're seeing all of the increased security all over the place, if you're wondering why all of this is happening, is because they're slowly but surely preparing for martial law in America, and they're getting ready to declare martial law in America, as well as lock down America, so that when martial law does get here, they have everything ready to go. And my hope is that you're seeing it with both your eyes open. Why do you think you're seeing increased military presence and increased security all over the place? Soon you're going to see police officers protesters outside of your house, literally. Why? Because they're looking to turn America into a military police state, literally, and I hope that's what you're seeing. But why is this document so important? And I've gone over this before, because if you see it, you can see that this document is unclassified right here. You can see it right here. You can also see right here that it says it is unclassified. But what happens when I go to the classified documents, and what happens when I look at this document and see part of the pages of the classified? I wonder what it's going to show me, because it's going to show me what martial law, because as you can see, it's the same document right here with the same logo, but as you can see, the difference is now is that it's classified and it says what guidelines under martial law. Is that what law enforcement is getting ready for? Is that what these firefighters are preparing for? Is that what is going on? Is that what your federal government is about to do? Of course it is. And all those alphabet soups such as FEMA and DOD and DHS and all those other ones are all in on the scheme, courtesy the Zionists. And as you can see right here, it even says if zone 1 and 2 go hot, system can request to issue under martial law orders to be reviewed by command, at which time will be addressed by the operation command under the system. Information that may be protected with these labels range from personally identifying information such as passport and social security numbers to documents protected by the authority client privilege. With martial law, this will be green and only under command, and it's the same document that we just went over, classified U.S. Army Special Operations Command. I wonder why it says martial law, and why do they even talk about having zones? Because are they preparing to have zones when martial law is finally declared in America in case of a state of emergency, which is what FEMA has been getting ready for through all these emergency alert system tests? Is it making sense now? It better be, because I'm even showing you another page from this document from the classified. As you can see, it says guidelines under martial law, and this page talks about the screening team. It also talks about one of the military bases where they're looking to take detainees under martial law. Is that what they're getting ready for? I've even gone over other documents such as FM 3.39-40 and many other documents and military documents to prove that your lovely government and your lovely military are preparing for these things vehemently at a high rate. And how are they going to do that? What is the building blocks? Well, first they need to incite the race war and the race riot, and the way that they're going to do it is they're going to use the George Soros and the Black Lives Matter campaign and all the other alphabet soups in order to uptick all of these protests and riots so that they can have an excuse to bring in martial law, not to mention all of the national emergencies courtesy these executive orders that your presidents have been passing, all of which are unconstitutional, by the way. But that's what they're getting ready for. That's what they're preparing for. And my hope is that you see it with both your eyes open, because now is the time to repent. Now, whether or not the actual day of rage takes place tomorrow with all the protests, you can definitely expect many more riots to take place. This is only just the beginning, and my hope is that you see that, because it's only going to uptick. It's only going to get worse from here. The protests and the riots are only going to skyrocket from here, especially when we're coming to the alleged elections, even though we know darn well that Mr. Obama is going to stay in office. But you're also probably wondering, well, what's the other day of rage that's coming? The other day of rage that's even at the door is the day of judgment. And now is the time to repent before the day of judgment gets here. And how can you repent? By seeking Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha, so that you can be forgiven of all your sins. But this is Truth Unveiled here, saying shalom.